now we've opened up to have, how many again? Over 600 friends. Wow, I think I got 20. But
17.
yeah, so I've cut a lot of people out of mine. But what ends up happening is sometimes we don't know what's going on. Like, I'll give you a good example. My brother, as I said, lives in Japan. And his wife does like massages, the oils, and she has her own business. And what ends up happening is Kenny, my little brother, has a lot of friends. And my little brother went through definitely some wild periods of time in his life. And he has friends from that era that are still kind of there. And he has to be real careful. He had to cut people off his friends list because a lot of their posts, since they have a joint Facebook account together, a lot of their posts is a direct reflection of her business, right? So you got to be really careful, because a lot of times it was like, how many friends can I have? How many followers can I have? But ultimately, as people start judging you by social media, which it sounds kind of bad to do, but as people start to look at your social media and come into an impression of you, you got to be really careful of who you actually have in your friends list. Go ahead.
I think it can also become a real headache, because people ask me to be friends, and yes, I'll know them, but I don't really know that I necessarily would normally, but I do, because I don't want their feelings hurt. So I'll keep people, and then, and that's how I ended up with so many. I don't want to hurt their feelings. And then if I unfriend them, they come find me. Why did you unfriend me? And
There's that cyberbullying, isn't it?
Feelings hurt, and I'm like, okay, fine. So I'm, about to the point where I'm just like, ugh. If I didn't have family elsewhere, I probably would have already deleted it.
Yeah.
Because it gets to be too much, and then I'm always worried about and 450 people, that's a lot of feelings to be worried about.
But isn't it amazing how, like if it was 20 years ago, we wouldn't really care. Like 20 years ago, hey, look, you're a bad friend. I really don't want you in my life. We'd be done with it. But for social media, we've actually taken responsibility for all those other people's emotions, when really at the end is, I don't like what you post. We're really not all that connected. So we can take some, but we don't do that. Like literally, how many, if you probably told how many people has cut people off their Facebook or their social media? Few, right? A lot of times it's very difficult. Hitting that block button or unfriend button can be very, very
See, sometimes they say, oh, why you unfriend me? But when you post something, that same person that you take off is asking you why. How many times did you like any of my picture status or anything? They don't. So they're just there to see what you're posting.
Right, they're just nosy.
So I just take them.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Well, that's good, because a lot of people struggle with that.
Because I have it for my family, so I don't need to have 400, 600, 800, and only my family likes my pictures. And that's why I have it for my family, not for everybody else.
Yeah. So I would, and looking at professional behaviors is starting to weed through your friend list. Start weeding through those people from Snapchat to YouTube and everything else that actually views your stuff, and figure out the people that kind of mold or kind of mirror your kind of goals and values, and leaving those folks in there. That way, as other people look at you, they get a better picture of who you are, right? So it becomes real important to do that. The other thing is, how do you feel? A lot of times, Facebook and YouTube is emotional unload, right? How many people in here has posted on bad days?
Oh, I won't do it.
Not anymore, I know.
Oh,
I
man.
used to.
No.
Yeah, isn't it easy to do though?
Easy to do.
I mean, I've seen people get on there and post about their bad day or some bad service they got at some restaurant, just belittle the person at the register and had their name because they read their name list, and just never go there for this one incident that happened. You know what I'm saying? And then all of a sudden you got these 30 people going, yes, I know, something happened like this yesterday. So it just keeps refueling this emotion that becomes very unproductive from a social media. And here's the problem with social media is, like, we've gone more to our friends nationally than we've gone to our friends locally. Before, is if we had a bad day, where would we go? We'd call mom, dad, brother, sister. We might call a friend. Hopefully, if you're married, you confide in your spouse, and that's where we take our bad day to. It's kind of left in this room, and then it's done. On social media, once it's there, it's always there. And then you get in the trends, right? You start seeing every time that person posts, it's all this emotion that really rolls out. And then the other one is just understanding really who's your audience, right? I've had people who have a Facebook page as their Facebook page and create a Facebook page that they want jobs, businesses, colleges, and other things to view, right? So they don't put, they're not listed in their normal fun Facebook pages as Mark J. Miller. They're listed as something else, so you can't find them. And they have their one Facebook page that they want occupations. So what it is they're understanding who their audience is. They're making sure that what's going to get presented to the world is going to be the things that I want to be presented to the world. Because I agree, man, the nice thing about social media is you have a place to kind of dump stuff and kind of go there. But knowing that as now people are accessing that, and I imagine now, if you look at, I'll give you a good example. My daughter married a military guy. She is 27 now. They were stationed in Germany. They went out one evening. He got intoxicated and they wrecked the car. Not a real bad wreck, anything bad, but they had to leave the car there and they had to go. My daughter gets on there and posts on Facebook, so-and-so was drinking last night and we wrecked the car. Do you know he got a phone call from police officers because it was on the page, right? So knowing who your audience is becomes very, 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 very important, right? And then how often do you post? There's a lot of studies out there that says you post more than 3 times a day, it looks a little excessive, right? So understanding from your standpoint is kind of looking at, how often are we posting? Because if we're posting nonstop, and if you're looking for another job, an employer's going to see, my God, they must spend all day posting, right? An employer may look in there and go, gosh, their last job, it seemed like they were posting during the day and they worked the day shift. So what are they going to do when they're here, right? So it becomes real important, knowing how much you post. So just kind of going back, what are the positives, right? So people are reviewing your activities, present the best that you can present of yourself, right? And whatever that means, present how you want people to see. Limit your complaining on social media. Allow it to be a positive realm. Because once again, if people are seeing your positive side and how you're viewing and how you're problem solving rather than complaining, you become more marketable. Be mindful of how you're writing. Bottom line is I know we use acronyms and small little words and everything else, but try to make it kind of a very good writing style, especially if you're moving from one job to the other or you're getting ready to graduate college, so you can be represented really, really well, right? As we go through, don't post a lot of bad photos, right? Be careful what you post, right? Make sure that if you're or reposting stuff, make sure you're doing that by, doing the stuff that's mirroring what your values are, not necessarily what some opinion or what some emotional flair that you had at the time, right? Make sure you have friends in your lives or on social media to be able to represent you, right? Make sure you don't make an emotional dumping ground, and make sure you're able to see your best side. Make sure you know who your audience are, because you never know who's actually watching, so present well. And then maybe try to limit or have some control or some discipline over how many times you post. Really, other than that, that's all I have. And really, the big point of this was, I know social media is about connecting. I know I use it a lot, because I got family everywhere all over the world, and I know how absolutely important it is. All I would ask you to do is kind of take a lot of these things that we talked about today, kind of process them a little bit, and figure out how you can change up how you do social media to kind of represent you the best you can represent yourself. Okay? Any questions for me, or any final comments that anyone wants to throw in there on social media? No? All right, thank you for coming. You guys, please fill out your little survey thing at the end. Just for the record, I'd like a lot of likes, so if you want to do the thumbs up, yeah. Justine, make sure you fill that out real nice. Okay. Maybe throw some comments in there too, Justine. That helps me out a little bit, because I'm doing my internship, so that becomes real important. I'm just messing. You guys have a great day. Thanks for coming in. This gets you another activity down. If you have friends that were unable to come, you can go on the share site, basically pull up the share site and still get credit for this. If you have been unable to make some of the workshops in the past, you can go on our share site, pull up those. You can do 2 and get credit for 2 activities. So, don't forget about that. That way you maximize your time in the program and set yourselves up for the possibility of grants and other things, okay? Y'all have a great day.
Thank you.
You gonna hit my team? No? All right, you got to help me carry this.
Hi, my name's Mark.
Sandy Amber.
Nice to meet you, Sandy.
I thought it was,